Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to another video that we're going to be bringing you today, in which we're going to be talking about WWE, and more specifically, in which we're going to be giving our predictions for the Royal Rumble, this coming 2016, the pay-per-view event that's going to kick off the road to WrestleMania. But before we begin, allow me to introduce my special guest on this video, and his name is...
What's going on, everybody? It's Thundershop.
Yeah, so basically what we're going to be talking about today is our picks to people who we feel are going to be able to win that Royal Rumble, who's going to be in that Final Four, and who really makes the most sense to go into the main event of WrestleMania to face the champion at that point in time, and maybe we'll talk about a little bit of who we think is going to be the champion at that point in time. But of course, to kick this off, I'm going to throw it over to Thundershot. What do you think?
All right. Well, obviously, as you guys know, recently, Big Show just announced he's going to enter number 1 in the Royal Rumble. So I mean, he's just too big a guy to be thrown out. So I think Big Show's going to enter number 1, and I think Big Show will leave the Royal Rumble as the victor there, and he will take on Roman Reigns. Because not only is he an exciting and compelling character in general, but he's too strong right now.
I almost threw up when I listened to you say that.
It's okay. It's understandable. To kind of give my opening predictions, there's a lot of rumors of comebacks, and I think that's like the lead go-to here. Is there's a lot of rumors of people coming back and being surprise victors in the Royal Rumble. So my main guess is on that being Brock Lesnar, obviously, where he's been for a while. It's about that time where big money payouts happen, so of course he'd show up for that. Yep. A rumor that's been floating around, I know you want to talk about later, Triple H has been rumored to, the storyline was originally supposed to be Triple H versus Seth Rollins at Mania, and now they just insert Roman Reigns since Seth Rollins has an injury. And then we have this storyline unfolding. The Rock has mentioned he will be at Mania, but there's some controversy on if he's going to be doing a movie there. The Rock's possibility. Sting is not a possibility. He does need neck surgery. Sting's comeback, maybe, maybe not, but Sting for the Rumble, probably not, because he needs neck surgery. But those are the three main surprise entrants that come out and potentially win the Rumble there.
I mean, I would wish, Sting is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, and I kind of hope that the neck, injury or at least surgery angle is kind of just an angle, because it'd be great if Sting comes out in the Royal Rumble and then is eliminated by the Undertaker and setting up their match. Because what's the Undertaker gonna even do this year? Is he gonna face Bray Wyatt? I mean, they haven't even brought that back up after that whole match with Bray Wyatt where he didn't even take the pinfall, which was weird. But yeah, I feel like basically the returning factor is really going to play a big part in the Royal Rumble because there's so many people that, they announced The Rock's going to be at WrestleMania, and we don't know, as you said, if he's going to be there in a wrestling capacity. They announced Brock Lesnar. They haven't announced Brock Lesnar, but we know he's going to be at Mania, and what else does he have to do? He's either going for the belt, or he's going to fight The Rock or some other big marquee star, and... yeah, I mean, I just feel like basically what they're doing with the Big Show being number 1 is, once again, they're trying to either make the Big Show seem impressive, or they're going to have someone come out and just, eliminate him to put them over, really quickly. But I feel like basically Big Show might do the Kane role this year, where he just throws out guy after guy after guy, with WWE still thinking, we think he's relevant, and we think he's a big threat, even though he's jobbed for years and years.
He might win this one.
Yeah, he's definitely going to win this one, and then he's going to get taken out by, if The Rock returns in the Royal Rumble, he's going to get taken out by him. But honestly, for the Final Four, who do you think the Final Four is actually going to end up being?
I can't necessarily call it the Final Four because I'm sure that some of the people I'm going to pick are going to be knocked out there. But I will go with my top 4. Top 4 possible selections, like we mentioned earlier. Triple H is on there. The Rock is iffy for me because I'm more on the fence if he's probably going to be shooting this movie and not want to get injured.
Yeah.
So they're not even going to mess with him there. So I doubt The Rock will be there. But we'll do Triple H. Lesnar is up there. If I have to pick at least one guy from the roster who I honestly think has the best shot at winning this, and a lot of people might think this is weird, maybe not, Kevin Owens right now, because he's been losing and or putting people over, but he's also been looking really strong, and that's good for both putting the people over, and nobody cares who you just lost to if you win a Royal Rumble, because your main event, your main event at Mania, that's a huge deal right there. So I think Kevin Owens is the one guy on the roster right now who has a legitimate shot at coming out and doing it. Those are my top 3. That's the thing, is the list falls off hard after that. There's almost nobody right now who can, and then Ambrose. We'll say Ambrose, even though they've done the Roman Ambrose thing way too many times already.
What if Chris Benoit comes back and reveals that he faked the whole thing?
Oh my God.
Or Eddie Guerrero, both of them come back and debut, and then they both get eliminated, kind of like Lex Luger and Bret Hart, and they have a triple threat match for the title.
I just watched that Royal Rumble the other day.
Yeah, honestly, like, this is hard. My top, like, 3, again, because, like, making a top 4 is very hard, but my top 3, in no order, is The Rock, Brock Lesnar, Triple H, and if I have to pick a 4th one, yeah, I agree with Owens. Like, if I have to think of who's going to be in a final 4, like, I feel like Big Show will be thrown out before those 4 last guys are still in the ring. So I feel like it's basically going to be Triple H, Brock Lesnar, and The Rock. And honestly, like, I feel like if they're going to set up Brock versus The Rock at WrestleMania, and Brock or somebody like The Rock doesn't win the belt from Roman before we go in, we'll get into who we think's going to be a champion there in a minute. But I mean, like, I feel like basically what's going to happen is they're both going to eliminate each other from the Royal Rumble, and Triple H might just be the one left over. And the thing is, like, the entire time Seth Rollins was champion, and I know I've said this time and time again, I felt like Triple H was purposely setting up to face him for the belt. And some people are like, oh no, it wasn't going to be for the belt. But I know it was going to be for the belt. It's Triple H. You know his ego is going to want to get that belt. So, now that this whole thing with Roman's happening, and then Vince alluded at Raw, oh, he's eventually going to exact his revenge, you know, at some point in the future, I just feel like they're setting up Roman to face Triple H at WrestleMania at this point in time, and I really don't want that to happen. Like, I'd much rather see Roman versus The Rock or Brock Lesnar, but I feel like The Rock, in this case, would have to be a year after thing. You know what I mean? Like, Roman establishes a champion for a whole year, and then The Rock comes in, he's like, okay, so what about me? You know?
He wouldn't even have to, like, I don't know, he wouldn't even have to establish champion. Rock could just do that shit he did with Cena where he comes out, he's like, you and me, next year, WrestleMania.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be great, too. I mean, like, their family, they immediately have that thing built in. It's like, you know, they could build up the whole story of like, oh, you're just in The Rock's shadow because you're his family. This is The Rock's cousin who's champion. And then on the other side, The Rock could be like, I'm going to test you and take you for everything you're worth. And we'll see if you're worthy of that belt that I used to wear. It would be the perfect story. And I know it's WWE, so they'd fuck it all up. But, I mean, it would be great in theory and on paper.
As they do time and time again. In my mind, there is probably an 80% chance, just based on the rumor and then the fact that he's Brock Lesnar, there's probably an 80% chance Triple H or Lesnar wins that. One of those two guys. In my head, that's how this is working. Maybe a 5% chance it's Owen, 2 or 3% chance it's Ambrose, and then, like, very small percentage chance we have some kind of wild card.
Goldberg
and Kurt Angle return.
They fuse together with the Patari earrings and become
Kurtberg. No, and then as far as champion goes going into Mania, if we wanted to talk about that, if it's not Roman has to be competing to get it back. In my mind, like, that's the only thing right now with how they built it up, with how they've taken so long to build up Roman and all the time and effort they put into Roman. If Roman isn't the champion at Mania, Roman will be facing the champion at Mania to take it back, because you either need some huge story. For example, Triple H is being a dick again and he wants to be in the limelight, and Triple H is going for the title and everybody hates that because get out of here, Triple H.
Yeah.
Triple H is the challenger for the championship. That's one thing. And then the other way around is, for whatever reason, Roman has lost the title, gotten completely screwed by Vince and the Authority, somehow worked his way into a main event WrestleMania match, and he's going to do everything he can to get the title back there. Because the title changing hands on Mania is always a big deal. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, it would just suck if Roman, like, after getting built up like this, just isn't the champion and isn't even in the match for the belt at WrestleMania. Like, that they would basically just be killing Roman at that point, even though, you know, you could say that, you know, they could always give it back to him in the future. Like, they fucked us around, they dicked him around for so long, not giving him that belt, and then eventually it's just like, oh, we gave you the belt, but we're gonna have another bigger star wrestle for the belt at WrestleMania. It's like, you know, how are you ever gonna build a top guy, you know, to take over after Cena if you're just going to keep throwing it back on these part-timers? But I could see a possible situation. What were we going to say?
That's the other one. Cena. I think that's the one guy we're forgetting about. And it's weird because if they want Pete to cheer Roman, putting him against Cena is kind of weird. That's not a match I would hate to see, though, because in a way it would be the old massive face of WWE taking on the new, I mean, you know, almost not necessarily the passing of the torch because that's too gay, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like just the passing of the torch thing going on. That's the one guy that I had in the back of my mind that I kind of forgot about. Is with WWE, you never know when they're gonna throw Cena at you for the title shot.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Roman, with his character, needs to just reach out and rip that freaking torch out of the hands of Cena, but at the same time, I still feel like the real man in WWE right now is Lesnar, even though he's barely around, and he's just the bigger star than Cena, and Roman never beat him, and if he doesn't beat Brock Lesnar at some point, I don't know if he's really going to be as big as he needs to be. Maybe they can do it for the next year after this, because, Brock does have a multi-year contract at this point, but If Roman doesn't wrestle for the belt this year, I could see them putting him in a feud with Triple H, because Triple H screws him out of the belt and maybe screws him out of a rematch or something like that. There is a pay-per-view in between the Royal Rumble and Mania. Basically they have Roman versus Triple H and Brock versus Rock for the belt. Or, Steve Austin, although, I mean, he looks like he's getting in good shape, but I feel like they would have teased it at that podcast or something. They definitely didn't. But, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just feel like I'm going to go with the safe thing and say that's probably going to be Roman versus Triple H, even though that's not a feud I want to see at WrestleMania for the belt. I feel like it's just what's going to happen and what everything is building up to.
Another possibility, small possibility, unlikely. Like, Stone Cold coming back would be hype as hell, but that's highly unlikely at this point. Maybe it could look like Triple H. Maybe it could look like the rumors are true. Rumors are true. Triple H enters number 25 or 28 or something like that, and he comes out and he's kicking ass and throwing everybody out, and people who are members of the Authority just step out of the ring. Triple H doesn't even have to wrestle him. And then what if number 30 was, for example, The Undertaker? Because it's been rumored a lot lately that he actually hit a few pay-per-views this year. He had Brock Lesnar at Hell in a Cell. He took on the Wyatt family at Survivor Series. I think in this past year he's done more matches than he did in the other 3 previous years combined or something like that. So what if he's gearing up as like, I'm almost done, but I'm going to hit this real quick before I call it quits for good? And what if his last match was maybe doing something like putting over Reigns in a Mania match?
See, the thing is, I think that would have an inverse or a bad effect on Roman, to be honest, because, even though it would be obviously a good gesture and it would be really helping Roman in terms of beating someone like a legend like him and then him being done, the fans, I feel, just would not have... I feel like the fans would be very unhappy because, the fans weren't really happy. Like, there's so many fans out there who were just, very unhappy when Undertaker lost at WrestleMania the first time against Brock Lesnar, and if he loses to Reigns, I feel like I'm one of the people who kind of feels like Reigns should have beaten the streak in the first place, years ago when actually it was going down, but I just don't feel like people would be happy. I feel like that would actually have a negative impact on Roman Reigns in the fans' eyes because they'd be like, fuck this. They'd rebel against that idea. So I'd much rather see Undertaker go out against Sting or against some other, legend and, maybe both of them hanging up. I mean, even, we've seen it enough times, but almost even considering Kane, maybe both of them retire at the same time, something like that. But, I mean, it'd be good in terms of he beat this epic legend, this one of the best ever, and then he leaves, but I just think that it wouldn't work in terms of the fans' eyes, and that might, make the fans start booing Roman even more.
I agree with you in that Sting or Kane, even if he was more built up, which I don't know if he can be more built up at this point because they've just done that too many times.
Yeah.
I agree with you that Sting would be the ideal outro for The Undertaker, the ideal way to go, but I disagree that the crowd would necessarily turn on him that hard because he's not beating the streak, and people have, since his more recent Lesnar matches, people have gotten used to the idea of him losing. It's not a big deal. It's not the huge deal that it was when Lesnar conquered the streak and, oh my God, that's the Undertaker and all this. He got massive hate for that, but I mean, even people like Lesnar now, despite what happened at SummerSlam or Hell in a Cell, with things like that, people were still cheering Lesnar. People were still, well, some of them, not all of them, but people were still okay with it. There's probably a few Undertaker hardcore fans out there that are like, no, Roman shouldn't beat him, and they might dislike Roman for that, but I don't know. I think there's definitely a possibility that match doesn't go incredibly south for Roman.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you never know. At the end of the day, stranger things have happened in WWE over the years. But, I mean, I feel like both of us are basically on the same page saying Roman goes into Mania probably as a champion or trying to get that belt back. And, basically all of our picks, it's really up in the air at this point since we don't know who's coming back, we don't know who's wrestling, but the picks that we've picked I feel are the most logical for that position. Do you have any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah, real quick before we go, is it just me or is Fastlane just an awful pay-per-view?
Yeah.
Bring back Backlash or something.
I've never liked a pay-per-view. Is Fastlane the one in between Royal Rumble?
Yeah, it's between the Rumble and Mania, and they moved the chamber for it because obviously throwing 6 to 12 guys, depending on how many matches there were, in a giant metal death trap a month before Mania wasn't the best idea.
Yeah.
So I can understand why they moved it. But Fastlane just seems there's nothing there. There's nothing to it. And I get it's the lane to WrestleMania or whatever. But I don't know.
I've never liked them having a pay-per-view in between the Royal Rumble and Mania, to be honest. I always felt that the whole period time between Royal Rumble and Mania should be reserved entirely for building up a feud and building it up and building it up before it happens.
It's the filler arc in anime.
Yeah, I've just never liked it. I just feel like it takes away in some cases because I don't feel like anyone should get a shot at the belt before the next, before WrestleMania, and it always happens. They rarely ever have a tag team match or something. They always have freaking rematch, and I really feel like they need to get rid of those, automatic rematch clauses because, they just get boring. You just see the same match happen over and over again in a row, and just takes away some of the marquee appeal of it. But yeah, Fastlane sucks. I didn't even like Elimination Chamber as a pay-per-view. I always felt like the Elimination Chamber or the Hell in the Cell or the Money in the Bank and stuff like that shouldn't have their own pay-per-view. There shouldn't, I don't really like gimmick pay-per-views. I wish that they would just have these at whatever, just to make it more unpredictable and to give it far more, interest for when they actually do it on a pay-per-view. It's like, holy shit, they're doing an Elimination Chamber. I haven't seen that forever. Wow, they're doing a Hell in the Cell rather than just, always having Hell in the Cell matches every year. It just makes it so much bigger. I mean, who knows? Maybe next time they'll have a 3 stages of Hell pay-per-view. I would hate that even more.
That would be awful. Because you get the wrong people, 1 match is bad enough, but 3 of them, oh my god.
Yeah. It was bad, too, when they used to have the 2 Money in the Banks in a row. That was, I hated that. 2 Money in the Banks at the same time, no. That just makes it even worse. But yeah, I think that basically we've given our thoughts on this. Tell us down below what you think about this. Who do you think is going to win the Royal Rumble? Do you agree with our picks, or maybe do you have your own sorts of dark horses? Do you think maybe Broly is going to win the Royal Rumble? We all know he could do it. He's in training after he got blown up in the sun. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, I want to thank Thundershot for coming out, and don't forget to like, comment, share with your friends this channel and my channel as well. And as I always say, stick around because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Peace.